We're excited to dive into how people leaders need to adapt to create an effective hybrid workplace. My name is Megan Gatlin. I'm VP of Customer Experience and Marketing here at Workplus. I'm joined by John Mills, VP of Business Development at Impulse by Xoxoday, as well as Radisha, Account Executive at Workplus, and he'll be helping me with the live product demonstration a bit later on. A little bit about me. I spent the last 10 plus years leading teams globally across emerging industries, including HR tech. And today at Workpulse, it's really my job to make sure that our customers have the best experience across companies of all sizes that are using our product. So really helping them to understand how, why, and where their teams do their best work. On that note, a little bit more about Workpulse. Workpulse is a workforce productivity analytics solution, and we really empower our customers to best manage their teams wherever they are. So again, today we'll be talking about hybrid specifically, but we also work with teams who are remote or in the office as well. And we do this by using deep behavioral insights and workforce analytics. And so today we have more than 800 companies and over 100,000 plus employees using Workpulse on a daily basis. So we're really excited to have you all here. I'm going to turn it over to John to do a brief intro on himself as well as Xoxoday.
Thanks, Megan. Good morning and welcome, everyone. My name is John Mills. I am the VP Business Development at Xoxoday and the Impulse platform. I have about 25 years in the human capital management space with respect to helping companies build engagement and recognition and surveys and pulse with respect to how those people are doing within their organizations. Xoxoday and Impulse, we've built a powerful platform, a holistic platform to help people look at connecting, engaging, and recognizing individuals across the corporation. So we'll talk a little bit more later about it, but looking forward to getting comments and talking with you folks today.
Great. So some brief housekeeping items. The total webinar time will be an hour. We'll do a live Q&A session at 45 minutes. If you have any questions as we're going, it seems a few of you have already started to use the chat functionality of Zoom, which is great. So if anything comes up as we're talking, feel free to type it in there and we'll do our best to answer all the questions we can. And if for some reason we can't get to your question, we will email you directly after the presentation. You'll also be receiving the video recording of this presentation as well via email. So that'll go to the email that you used to sign up. And then finally, we'd love for you to take an exit survey at the conclusion of the webinar. It'll just help us make sure that we can refine our presentations in the future. And you'll also have access to an extended free trial link for both Workpulse and Xoxoday. So kind of a benefit of sticking around till the end there is that you'll get to actually use that link to sign up for an extended free trial as kind of a thank you for joining today. And we look forward to hearing from you. Before we move forward, we'd love to take an attendee poll. So you'll be able to see this pop up in your window, but essentially the question is, in this context of hybrid work, what is your team's current work structure? We'd love to see who of you are already working hybrid, or if you're not, if you're thinking about it, and then we can tailor part of our presentation directly to kind of the results we get from that attendee poll. So I think Priya or Vanya, I don't know if it's come up yet for any of you guys. Again, is anyone seeing the survey come up? Radisha, Vanya, Mary?
Yes, Megan, the survey.
Oh, there it is. Great, I see it.
I see it now. Yeah.
And the results are out.
Thank you. Okay, so again, you guys should see that in your screen now. So we'll look over the results in a bit. Okay, so let's talk about the agenda high level. Again, we're going to go a little bit further into Workpulse and Xoxoday and give you a little bit more information, kind of high level about who we are, what we do. We'll define exactly what is hybrid work. So we'll talk about some of the benefits and real world examples. John will take us through company culture and HR. So specifically how to think about changing or enhancing your company culture and the role of HR in this new hybrid environment. I'll walk us through the employee experience and kind of how important that is to keep your employee engagement high in a hybrid work environment. And also we'll talk about preventing the kind of two-team syndrome, which is the us versus them, having some people in the office and others remote, and how you can continue to use these things like culture, HR, and employee experience to make sure that you're continuing to provide your employees with equal opportunities based on where they're working. And we'll talk a little bit about some of the challenges of hybrid work and how you can address them. And then we'll do a live Workpulse demo as well as a video of Xoxoday to give you a little bit more information on the product. And then from there, like I said, we'll do that Q&A. We'll have a live exit survey, and we'll talk about some extended trial options for you to really get to use the software yourself. So John, I'll turn it over to you.
Yeah, thank you, Megan. So basically what I'd kind of like to touch on today is how we've developed Impulse and the product. And as I mentioned at the top of the webinar today, it's really a holistic type of program where you house all your connections, all your recognition, all your engagement, and certainly from a pulse perspective, you start surveying to find out how people are feeling in the organization. Now that we really have moved to a work from home and a hybrid type of marketplace, corporate structure wise, to quote one of my favorite things happening now in TV and Disney, Mandalorian, this is the way. This is the way it's going to be from now on. Some companies will embrace completely work from home. Others will be more of a hybrid model, upwards of, right now, statistics are showing upwards 75% of companies will be allowing their employees to work part-time or even full-time from home. So what you need to do is find a way to engage those folks, whether they're working in a home office or if they happen to go to the office a couple of days a week. And that is where this type of solution comes into play. It's a platform where folks can come in and see each other, talk, connect with each other, regardless of where they are in the world. Most of us are spending day after day on Zooms, day after day on your Teams platform or Slack, whatever you're using internally. And you don't really get much interaction with folks except on those platforms. Managers typically aren't giving a lot of praise, aren't giving a lot of recognition, but they are certainly pointing out things that aren't going well. So it really is a platform where you can help connect each other through also a social network that's there. You can align the behaviors that you want to see your employees use and display in the workforce. You can empower your employees to start reaching out and connecting and congratulating each other, sending a badge, sending an e-card, sending some points to them if you want to reward them. And really on top of that is we start surveying. And so we let employees do their own surveys so they can start surveying how am I doing? How do you people feel I'm working with you? Am I doing a great job? You can also pulse the whole corporation with respect to how things are happening in the organization, who's doing what, how are you feeling today? And gone are the days of the annual employee satisfaction survey. That doesn't work. That's really looking in the rearview mirror. You've got to be more efficient. You have to be more diverse. You have to make sure you're doing it at least quarterly to find out what's happening. And then you can make some changes if you have to. But it is all about building that culture and making sure that people are recognizing each other, they're engaging each other, and they're making sure that they're living your values from a day-to-day perspective. And that's what we do at Xoxoday.
Thanks, John. Going off mute. Yeah, so some more on Workpulse. So at its core, Workpulse is really a privacy-first workforce analytics and productivity platform. So it's an agent that installs on company or employee personal devices that they use for work, either on Mac, Windows, or Linux. And it's available in the cloud or on-premise on your private network. So it's incredibly easy to use and deploy through mass installation options. So we have very large enterprise customers that are able to get this up and running within minutes. And what's really cool about Workpulse is that we ourselves have a hybrid team with staff based, all across the world. So for example, our head office out of Serbia, where Radisha is logged in from today, I'm actually, on the West Coast, specifically in Northern California, hence why it's so dark. And so, we love that we can actually practice what we preach and use our own software to gain productivity insights about how our team is actually doing on a day-to-day basis. And so some of the benefits here, are on the screen, but I think really looking at the hybrid kind of environment we've been talking about, using Workpulse, you can really, gain real-time visibility into how your team is working, what they're working on throughout the day, how productive they are. And again, you'll see this in the live demonstration, but really being able to also understand and support your entire team using these productivity insights. So things like productivity trends, labels, and metrics. We also have time and attendance that can be simplified simply through the computer activity. So this makes clocking in and out very easy, and it's actually based on the activity that's happening on that given period. So this simplifies things like payroll. And then again, on that same note, we have automated time tracking, which can help to, again, kind of remove any bottlenecks in processes and also, award those that are doing a good job. And overall, just optimizing that employee productivity and experience is really what we do here at Workpulse. Moving on. I think, John, you're going to cover kind of setting the scene for what is hybrid work to really set the foundation for the rest of the conversation.
Sure. And it's funny, probably 2 years ago when you talked about people being able to work from home, it was almost a perk, right? People would say, maybe once a week, you get to use a day to work at home. And people enjoyed it and they found themselves to be more productive. But as I mentioned before, it really is the way that we're going to see some sort of hybrid model. And it could be a couple days a week in the office. It could be 1 day a week, 3 days a week. It's really going to depend on the individual and the organization, how they support their employees. You look at some of the companies that have gone totally hybrid or totally work from home, it's quite amazing, but there's really no one size fits all. You're going to have to let your employees decide what makes sense. How do I want to be interacting with my workers? And anyone that has worked from home because of lockdown, they're realizing this is pretty cool. I'm up in the morning early. If I have kids, I get them off to school. I'm back, I'm in my office all day, and when they come home from school, I can interact as well. And guess what? My day's over at 6. If I want it to be over at 6, I can work later if I want, but I'm not commuting 3 hours a day to work. The other thing that you have to look at from a hybrid model is how supportive can you be with your employees at home? Do they have all the tools? They have collaboration, and talking about the Workplus product, for example. How can they meet as teams? So I think it's here to stay. We're never going back to everyone back in the office. There are some, jobs, logistics, and people, work in warehouses that unfortunately they'll be there full time, but they probably enjoy that. They're used to it. But for the most part, people like ourselves are going to be in front of a screen a lot of the day, and what we have to do is make sure we're still managed to engage those folks on a day-to-day basis in that hybrid model.
Yeah, and to kind of, dovetail on what you just said, so the benefits, of working, giving them the option to work from kind of multiple places is that they have the flexibility to work in a way that's most productive to them. So just like John was saying, it might be just certain hours of the day or days of the week, but either way, you can ensure that they're happy and you want to retain your employees, right? It supports that greater work-life balance, just also as John mentioned, so folks with kids or people that may prefer to be in the office versus not, but either way, they have that option. Of course, it reduces overheads and costs, which is pretty self-explanatory, but I definitely have talked to a lot of people about this that see this as a real benefit. You can downsize your office space. You have less transportation of people coming in and out of the office. And then, one thing that I love on here also is that companies can hire and employees can move kind of beyond borders. So again, speaking personally with Workpulse and myself, I've had the opportunity to actually go to Belgrade, Serbia multiple times. It's actually encouraged. And those are the times where you can actually get together and make yourself feel like you really are part of the team, even though, you could be very much far away in terms of, time. And then companies can also mitigate, of course, potential COVID. So, things like sign-up sheets, limiting the number of people in the office, social distancing, all of that becomes a lot easier and makes people feel really comfortable in this new hybrid model. So some interesting stats that we found as we were going through kind of thinking about hybrid work is that 82% of company leaders say they will permit employees to work remotely. Again, this is from Gartner. Web searches for the term hybrid work increased by 400% in the first 5 months of 2021, which shows you a lot of people are looking into this and wanting to learn more. I think the demand from the employees is very high. And then 66% of leaders say their company is considering redesigning office space for hybrid work. So from the last poll that we took, it looks like we're at about 50-50 in terms of participants, either working hybrid or not. So that's good. I think those of you that already are probably recognize some of these benefits. And for those of you that aren't, we're hoping today that we can give you some more information, that will help you roll that out in the future. So we have one more attendee poll that I believe Mary and Xoxoday is going to help put up on your screen. What is your biggest challenge or obstacle when going hybrid? So you'll see those options in front of you if you can help us out by answering that as well. And in the meantime, I'm going to turn over to John. He's going to talk a little bit about some real life examples of companies that have already gone hybrid.
Yeah, thanks, Megan. There we go. Let me just close that off. Yeah, these are some of the folks that, obviously big names that you recognize that, to be honest, they weren't sure what they were going to do at the beginning. There was some big discussions in the boardroom about, do we go fully hybrid? Do we go fully locked down from home? But all these folks now have come out and said, you know what, our employees can choose to work from home for as long as they want, forever. Microsoft, Google. I had a conversation yesterday with someone from Facebook, and believe it or not, they weren't sure what to do the first couple months. They didn't know how to onboard people. When you think about it now, a lot of the onboarding, I have only seen people from the waist up for about 1.5 years. And so, and when you're interviewing folks, that's what you're seeing, right? You don't know, they can have 3 legs, 6 legs, no legs, but I know they're doing the work, so that's fine. So, but that's kind of the reality nowadays, is you don't get a chance to really interact with folks. And gone are the days when, you know, if you wanted an answer to a question, you could walk down to this person's office and stand in their door and wait. That's not happening anymore. Everyone's on meetings, or I'm not taking your call because I'm on a Zoom or whatever it might be. But the nice thing is it's these companies have decided, and these are major companies I think people will follow, that this is the way of the future. We have to allow employees to be hybrid or be totally out of the office, decide who does what, making sure I'm empowering them at home, making sure they have all the equipment they require, make sure I'm interact with them on a daily basis, not just calling for meetings, but calling to actually speak to them, saying, how you doing today? Everything okay? Is there anything we can do for you? And so I think it's here to stay, and I'm sure Megan and you and your group feel the same way. It's how do we engage all these teams across the world to make sure that we are productive. That's it.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, let's see. There's another survey in front of you guys. We're also going to share the results. So, basically it says, to ensure the success of your hybrid work strategy, are you exploring employee engagement solutions? So we'll see what you guys put in there in a moment. So again, to kind of double down on what John was saying, you naturally need to assume that there's going to be change in how you work with your team now that you're moving over to a potentially hybrid model. And so the 3 key areas that we see that in is, first, company culture. So how do you maintain or improve company culture? HR, how do you need to redefine the role of HR in your workplace? And what John was saying, especially with employee onboarding, that's a huge part of it. And also just ongoing, making sure that they're happy and checking in with them. And then, like we said, the employee experience. So how do you maintain, an engagement level with your employees and keeping them productive and happy, when you can't actually see them face to face every single day? So these are kind of the main things we're going to be jumping into. So we'll start with company culture. John, back over to you.
Yeah, thanks. So really, it's kind of the HR role to look at how are we going to create or enhance our culture. And typically, regardless of the tools you have, regardless of the training you have internally, we really have tasked our managers in building that culture. But we have to make sure that we're motivating the managers to say, part of your work, aside from the tasks that you have to do, is to have some people skills, and you have to start trying to engage them on a daily basis with respect to what we're trying to do as a corporation and as a team, and how do I motivate you? Because a lot of managers get promoted to management because they're good at something. And typically it's a technical skill, or I'm a great salesperson. Next thing you know, I'm running a sales team. I'm a great developer. All of a sudden I'm a project manager. But I don't have the soft side of things to help build that culture internally, and to really display to my employees and to talk to them about why we're doing the things we're doing and what kind of behaviors are important to recognize and develop. Culture erosion, that's happening now because of the fact that people aren't together very often. And so if they're not engaging and talking to their individuals during the day and saying, hey, great job, I'm glad you're on the team, what can I do for you today? You're not going to build that culture of inclusion that you want in motivation in the corporation. What I've seen as well in the last 1.5 years is really elevation of recognition and rewards. And so you're starting to recognize people internally. There's the old saying that you can recognize people without an award or reward, but never reward somebody without giving them recognition. And that there's a big sometimes mix there, because if I'm a manager and I said, well, I have these great tools and I'm allowed to recognize folks, I just start recognizing, but I don't actually provide the why I'm doing it. There's a rule of specificity that you have to look at, is here's why I'm rewarding you and why I'm recognizing you, and here's the impact it had on the organization. The other thing that with our systems and what people are looking at now is really a pulse survey. And so you're reaching out to employees on a regular basis. I mentioned before, it could be quarterly, it could be monthly, but you're trying, or it could be daily, a quick pulse. Hey, how are you feeling today? I'm feeling great, whatever it might be. Then you get a culture across the corporation. Well, how am I doing? I've got 20,000 employees or 5,000 employees or 100 employees across the world. How do I know how people are feeling on a daily basis and how they're interacting with each other? And that's where the pulse surveys come into play. And then what that allows you to do is really turn on a dime if you have to. Even a large corporation say, hey, we have a real problem in this division. No one seems to be engaged with what they're doing. I see it in the surveys. We've got to speak with some of our regional managers or managers. We got to make sure we're driving down into the workforce, how we feel about them and how important they are and what they're doing makes a difference. People want to know that their job is specific. They want to know why they're doing it, what it means to the company, and they want to be recognized for doing it. Is that me again? So
Yes.
that's what okay, that's really where the role of the HR individual comes into play. And HR in the last 3 or 4 years, maybe 5 years, is finally getting a seat at the C-suite table because how important it is to engage employees and to drive the business outcomes of the corporation. People are looking at the analytics behind recognition, engagement, and what that means to the corporation. Am I measuring it? And then I'm seeing, you know what, the more engaged workforce we have, and the more they're feeling comfortable with what they're doing, and the more happy they are, the more happy our customers are, and that's driving our business outcomes. So what they're doing is then looking at, well, how do we do that? How do we adjust it accordingly across our corporation? Do we give, and now because we're going hybrid, what do we look at the work hours? How do we do flexible schedules? How do we do work-life balance? How are we helping our employees with their mental illness and mental anxiety they're having from working from home? For example, in the Canadian marketplace where I'm based, in the last year, 1 in 5 Canadians left their job due to anxiety and stress. That is a tremendous amount of people when you think of the lost productivity in corporations. So that's where HR role has really changed from, hey, making sure payroll is great and benefits are great, to more driving behaviors in an organization to help that company prosper.
All right, thanks, John. So I want to talk a little bit about employee experience. So we just covered culture and HR. So on the kind of experience side of the employees and talking about, the best way to make sure that as you're moving over to the hybrid environment, that you're looking at things like employee engagement and monitoring productivity is basically a starting point is you need a way to measure it. And so something you'll see in the Workpulse demo is also like the starting point for monitoring and improving productivity is really having a way to actually measure it with data and making that meaningful and being able to track it kind of before and after you move over to these models, and how do you do that? And so, for example, you can look at things like productivity trends that show you, where employees are more productive. Are they more productive at home or in the office? And by looking at those kinds of things, you can also think about the tools and processes you're using today and how you need to adapt those as you move over to a hybrid model. And so kind of the 3 pillars under employment engagement is, like we said, depending on data. So use that data, measure it often, involve the employees in the process. So something that, we think is really important is actually giving employees the knowledge that you are, helping them to be more productive by using these systems and tools, and then involving them in the process through reviewing that with them. And for example, again, with Workpulse, you can actually show the employees the data themselves. So it's not just a tool for the managers to know what employees are working on, but also for the employees themselves to be able to benchmark their own success. And to John's point, also always rewarding and recognizing, good behavior and being loud about it. Even if your methods are Slack, or on your, company all hands, continuing to drive the positive behavior from your top employees to keep motivating the rest of the team. And then, we talk about this avoided 2-team syndrome, which again, basically is just a fancy way of saying making sure that everyone's included. So again, if you have maybe a couple people that are remote, but the majority of the rest of the team is in the office, thinking about how you can include those people, whether it's, like I said, monthly, quarterly, maybe even having a budget set aside that you would normally spend on office time, but actually using that budget for team activities and things like that, which is something that we do at Workpulse often. Let's see, next. I wanted to very quickly highlight one customer that's been very successful in a hybrid model for us. And so this is a company, Farmers Insurance. I don't know if you're familiar with them, but this is an enterprise level insurance company. They have a bit of a franchise model. So they have lots of different offices around the US. And so they're able to actually use our software. And as a result, we're able to drive productivity significantly up, as well as increase their revenue. And so I think this is a really good example of tracking productivity and making it fun, as we said. So actually giving the employees an opportunity to, like as you see in this quote, come up to their managers and say, hey, how did I do today? And start a conversation. And then also getting the employees on board with the entire process. So something we hear a lot is, well, how do I explain to my employees that we're going to be, now using this software to see what they're doing? And the truth is that's not the goal of Workpulse, or I think of any company. Of course, you can use it for that reason, but it's really to start that conversation and allow employees to feel that they're part of the process and getting their feedback on their own performance. And so this is one company that's been very successful doing that. So I wanted to share that with you all. And then very quickly, before we jump into the demo portion of today, these are some of the challenges of hybrid work. And in this survey, the results from before, 67% said their biggest challenge was, or thing that they were worried about to overcome, was productivity. So we're talking a lot about that. And then 33% of you said that it was the employee's overall well-being. So I think all that's very much aligned with the things we're talking about today. For me, I've highlighted a few of these that I find to be most interesting. So I think, if you look at risk number 3, thinking the same systems and processes will naturally translate. So as we said, I think really analyzing your tool stack and maybe adding new tools or taking some away that are no longer relevant. Something that's really cool with Workpulse also is that actually when you're looking at your team's productivity, you'll be able to see maybe that some applications are no longer being used by certain teams. So it can actually save you some money because you can maybe remove those licenses if they're no longer necessary based on the teams and how they use their systems and tools every day. Also, as John really touched on well, having hybrid goal means, you're kind of disconnected. So you need to make sure that you really double down on things like quarterly goals, OKRs, all of those things to really make sure everyone's marching in the same direction. And it'll be pretty clear to you if people aren't, because as long as you put the playbook down and people know what their expectations are, then regardless of where they're working or when they decide to work, they're going to be able to show that productivity because it's going to show in the results and their day-to-day activities. And then finally, also only monitoring performance of remote, for example. So this is also a common misconception. It actually reinforces that two-team syndrome. Don't just monitor the employees that might be at home. If you're going to be using, the software and other things, make sure that you're touching base with everyone and treating everyone the same regardless. And again, some people prefer to be in the office, some people prefer to be at home, and regardless, they should have the same access to the same information as everyone else. So I think from here, what we're going to do is go to the demo portion of today. So the first thing that we have to show you, is going to be, yeah, it was quick. It's going to be a quick video on Xoxoday and Impulse, and then we will go into the demonstration for Workpulse.
Efficient organizations are built with motivated and purpose-driven employees. Employees need clarity, growth, and motivation to perform at their best, and people managers understand and aim to provide the same. Challenges are many, and solutions exist in silos. A multitude of disconnected solutions lead to complex implementation and low adoption. Enter Impulse, a holistic solution for all your employee engagement needs. Connect, align, empower, and motivate your employees to build high-performance teams. Gather feedback, identify improvement areas, and take corrective action, all through one common platform. And with seamless integrations available with your existing work systems, getting started is a breeze. Xoxoday Impulse is designed for employees and people managers with the principles of the Deming cycle for continuous feedback and continuous improvement at its core. For employees, Impulse makes the workplace vibrant and connected with continuous feedback, recognition, and perks. Managers can get a real-time pulse of their teams and whether you are a growing startup or an enterprise, build a truly engaged employee experience with Xoxoday Impulse.
All right. I'm going to turn it over now to Radisha. He's going to go through the
Look at this.
product demo. Oh,
90.
Yeah, thanks, Megan. It was a wonderful presentation. Hello, everyone. My name is Radisha. I'm with Workplus for more than a year now, and I was actually working most with enterprise level companies here and helping them with the implementation of our solution and just making sure that everything else runs smoothly in that process. And today I'm going to provide you with a demo of our platform, just so you can see firsthand all the functionalities and how everything works. So allow me to share my screen and we can start. Okay, so I'll start from the beginning. So if you're a company and, for example, you've decided that you would like to implement Workplus into your organization, basically you would start from here. This is the Employees tab. And this is actually the place where you would add all the employees to this dashboard from your organization that you would like to use Workplus to actually increase the productivity and monitor processes. And we are able to support different deployment scenarios. In the majority of cases, it will be dependent from whether they're using company or personal device. Of course, due to the privacy concerns, there will be different options and features available for personal and for company computers. And in the personal computers, so very simple, very user-friendly, you would just enter the employee email, type in their name, the team that they belong to, and you would send them the invitation. The way that we are deploying this is by installing the MSI file on the employee device. And in the case of company computer, basically you would be able to download the installation file for Windows, Mac, or Linux and push it, for example, through Active Directory onto all of those devices. So Workplus would immediately recognize their unique identifiers from Active Directory and they would immediately show up here. And then also it's very easy to deactivate an employee just by clicking on this button and selecting deactivate. And now that you've added, and one thing that I can add is that for the majority of cases, we are storing all the data on cloud and we're using Google's SOC2 cloud data centers. But on the other hand, when we are dealing with some companies that have very strict regulations like banking, insurance, telecommunication, often we would need to apply on-premise installation, so we are also able to support that. And okay, to continue now that we've added employees to the dashboard, we would choose the tracking scenario that we would like to implement, and to do that we will go to settings and then tracking settings. Again, we would choose whether to have the settings for company or personal computers. And then once we select, let's say for the company computers, we will have these two visibility modes. And the great thing about Workplus is the product itself is actually built to be able to cover, I would say, two extremes on the spectrum. On the one hand, we are often facing companies that would like to have everything deployed in stealth and gather as much as information as possible. And then on the other hand, sometimes we have companies that are, let's say, from a European Union and have very strict GDPR regulations, and they basically want to have all the employees on board throughout the deployment process and later throughout the usage process. So we are in a way able to cover both sides of that spectrum. And in the case of stealth mode, there are a couple of tracking options: unlimited, which will track the activities of the employees from the moment they turn on the computer until they turn it off. And then we have fixed, network-based tracking. And if we decide for the visible mode, it will open these two options, and manual clock-in basically means that the employees would be the one who would clock in and clock out. And this is the settings that I was referring to. It's actually something like this would allow for the employees to see their own productivity data, and in that way we would basically remove that big brother connotation that's often connected to this type of solution by practically giving the tools to the employees also and letting them understand why this type of analytics is also important for them personally, for preventing burnout, for increasing the productivity and also improving their daily habits. I know for at least in my personal case, it's very useful to be able to go back and see what was I doing on any specific week and whether there's some improvements that can be implemented. Okay, and now that we've added employees and we decided on the tracking scenario, what we would do is, for example, we can go to RealTime Insights, and here we can see all the employees and what they're currently working on. So whether they are using certain application that's productive or not productive. And then whenever we see an employee name, if we click on it, it will actually take us to their individual dashboard. And there we will be able to see some specific information about their productivity. So if I choose any time frame here in the upper right corner, we will see that for this specific employee, this is amount of work time, productive time, and unproductive time. This is the activities presented as a graph, the screenshots captured by this employee during the past month, and also top apps and websites used. And you know, the screenshot feature is very important. First of all, not just for productivity's sake, but also for keeping the high level of security in your organizations, because you can always go back and prevent some malpractices. And if you have suspicions that some employees are expressing a sort of a behavior that can jeopardize security, it's very easy to go back historically and see what was going on exactly. But of course, on the other hand, screenshots are the feature that raises a lot of questions related to privacy. And as I mentioned before, the good thing is that we have very good settings that cover that aspect of screenshots. So I can share, for example, that on a team level, we're actually able to turn off the screenshots for specific apps and websites. And as you can see in our organization, it is turned off for this banking website, HR tools, for these messaging apps. And in this way, whenever these applications are in focus, Workplus will wait for something else before making a screenshot. So something like this is very useful for preserving the privacy. And then if we go to the settings aspect and click on privacy, you can actually see that you can blur all the screenshots by default. And in this way, so from my experience, this is very useful, let's say in the BPO industry. So BPOs are usually working, outsourcing their employees to other industries like insurance, banking, and with their clients, there is a lot of concerns related to sharing their data that can sometimes be very sensitive. And from my experience, this type of feature, like blurring the screenshots, turning off the screenshots for specific applications and websites, that type of flexibility actually helps a lot when communicating our solution to their clients, but also when communicating our solution internally to their employees, because you know, in this way we want to remove that monitoring anxiety that can sometimes show up. And to move forward in the time and attendance, you're actually able to see all the employees' productivity data on a daily level. And this is very useful as a general report where you have everything in one place, and you can actually connect this to your payroll system. So in this way, you will have the most exact data about the employee clock in, clock out time and their activities. So it's very useful for the payroll calculation. And if we go to the attendance tab, and this is actually the feature that we developed for our largest client that has currently approximately 10,000 employees using our solution. And I'll just select another time frame so we can so it can be more digestible. Here we can create an attendance threshold, which would be the minimum number of hours that you're expecting from your employees before you would consider them as attendant. And then depending from the fulfillment of this threshold, you will be able to see mark next to the name of whether they attended, whether they were absent, currently working, or below threshold. And these circles are also clickable. So lower amount of time, smaller circle will represent lower amount of work time, and larger circle, more work time, and you will be able to see this additional analytics. Basically, the whole idea behind this was for their managers to be able to see in one user-friendly dashboard and to quickly check the attendance of their employees. And then, as Megan also mentioned, apps and website feature where you're able to see the usage of different application and websites on this level that you can also select here, but for the whole organization. This is very useful for tracking the utilization of many different tools that very often large organizations are using. So I had many situations where the company would buy a certain tool for certain teams or individuals, and after using Workplus for just a couple of weeks, they would realize that some of those tools are actually not being utilized. So what they would do is they would either remove those licenses, and that's a sort of a cost-cutting approach, or they would introduce a procedure to make those individuals use the tool that they obviously purchased for a reason. So I would say in both situations, what we are seeing is a very fast return on investment, either through cost-cutting in this case, or through introducing a new procedure that can mitigate this lack of usage of these tools. And on the activities tab, this feature is something that the HR representatives like very much, the managers also, because it actually provides a graphic representation of every employee timeline throughout the day. For example, in some countries, let's say in Sweden, Norway, countries that are very concerned about the employee burnout, they are basically, I'm receiving a lot of good feedback from them on the topic of, just monitoring whether the employees are not staying too late after their working hours, and whether they are not, under too much pressure and regarding the current workload that they're going through. And these features, again, I would point out that it's very digestible, very user-friendly, very easy to find what you're looking for. If, for example, if you hover the mouse above any one of these purple squares, it will actually show the exact amount of active time there, together with the top 3 most used apps and websites. And regarding the project and task feature, this is interesting because in this way, we're actually introducing a sort of a goal-oriented tracking together with this productivity and activities tracking. And the way that this works is all of these analytics that are being gathered automatically by Workplus will now be connected to a specific project or a task. And the way that we're doing that is by the employees themselves clicking on a specific project once they start working on it. And then Workplus takes all of these analytics and it connects it to a project. And it's very easy to enter the project name, the bill rate, and assign employees to specific to this specific project. And once we click on any one of these as an example, we will be able to see some additional analytics there. So total time spent on the project, the income made, the costs, and then we have the standard Kanban layout of to do, on hold, in progress, and done, in which we can add some additional tasks. And then below we can see all the employees that are assigned on this project, together with their clocked in time and productivity information related to that clocked in time, the graphic representation of their timeline, and now screenshots and top apps and websites used, but while they were working on this project. And this is very interesting. One of the main use cases that I'm receiving a lot of feedback, a lot of good feedback on, is that once you determine who is the top performer, let's say on some internal KPIs that majority of organization have, it's very easy to go back to their personal profile. And I will just choose another time frame so we can have more data. And once we go to the project tab now on their personal profile, we will actually be able to see all the projects and tasks that they are personally engaged on. And this is something that's actually a game changer, because now if you know that this employee is a top performer, and if you click on this task, you can very easily see what are his activities, how do they differentiate from other employees, and how can we actually take that and create it into a procedure so all the others employees will be able to mimic that, and then in that way also increase productivity. So very cool feature, very good feedback that I received on this. And at the end, I would like to cover something that's more important for the enterprise companies, maybe because often they have a large number of employees in very complex organizational structures. So we are actually able to support adding different admins, which is a sort of a super users, but also the managers. And with managers, you can decide on the type of scope that they will have, right? So within that scope, you can choose the permission, so what they will be able to see also. And at the end, the only feature that I would like to cover is that you can create an automated email reports for all these things. You would just choose the frequency of the report, the content that you would like to see, and whether you would like to see this report for a specific team or individuals, and you would just save that, and you would receive that report on that frequency that you selected. So yeah, I think that will be it regarding the demo. And Megan, I think you can take over again.
Yeah, thanks so much, Radisha. I appreciate it.
Welcome.
Now for any of the attendees, if you guys have any questions, I haven't seen any come in yet, I don't think. Let's see. Oh, there are a couple that came in. So, okay, the first one, I guess, John, then is for you. The question is, how does Impulse fit into the hybrid model?
Well, it fits fantastically because it is able to integrate, as you saw before, with Teams, with Slack, with success factors. At the same time, it allows you to communicate across the company through single sign-on. It's mobile app based as well, so you're never away from being able to collaborate and congratulate folks and then reach out and see what's happening in your organization. So it's fantastic from a hybrid model. The good thing is that it allows you to get everyone involved in the organization. And if we talked before, you mentioned about the team environment and people on Zooms and stuff. The risk that you have right now in the hybrid model is maybe one of your performers or someone who's not a large performer in a team never speaks, never gets a chance. His camera's turned off. You don't see him on Zoom, and versus being in the office when you get that face-to-face, you interact with them. So this allows employees to reach out to each other very effectively and say, hey, how you doing? What's going on? How's your day? Ping me back through the system, and I want to talk to you. So it fits great in the hybrid model, and it allows companies to interact with everyone across the organization and for all the employees to interact with each other as well.
Okay, great. And then this is one I think both of us can answer, but I'll kick it off. So it says, as a team leader, do you have any advice for getting buy-in from higher ups to adopt a hybrid model? So my take around this, and from what we've talked to our customers about, is it's important to kind of make your own business case for why hybrid is important. So if you are someone who's reporting up into someone who's more of a decision maker and you're really just trying to get the ball rolling, really talking to the employees, put together, highlight, I guess, the reasons why you think this is going to be beneficial, and then also try a pilot. So I talked to a lot of customers who they started with a few people coming into the office, and then they slowly built it out, and that allowed them to really kind of take charge of maybe mistakes that they would have made or sensitivities to the employees, and really constantly, I mean, John's really touched on this, but constantly checking in also. So if you do roll this model out, making sure that you have those regular touch points to really talk about not just their productivity, which obviously is why we're here today to talk about, but also their well-being. And I think that that's a good way to roll it out in kind of phases, and to also be doing a good job of monitoring how you roll it out to make sure that you don't do it too fast and that you do it correctly. I don't know, John, if there's anything you want to add to that.
Yeah, I think that the whole thought process around a pilot makes sense. And I think why there's some hesitancy in the workplace is a lot of senior leaders have never worked this way before. And so, well, gee, how do I know people are actually productive and actually working? I don't see them every day. I don't see them in the office. I don't see them on the phones if I'm running a call center or whatever it might be. So there's an inherent fact that you think, well, gee, if some people is working from home, they're goofing off half the day. They're not actually productive for us. So as you mentioned, it's taking some isolated case, and you know what? Let's see this whole region here. We're going to have them work hybrid and see what their production is like versus someone who's always in the office. And you're probably going to see that they're more productive. And so far it has been the case because first of all, I'm in my office, in my pajamas at 8 in the morning or 7:30 in the morning. And I sit there all day and work hard on Zoom and this and that. And then I shut my day down, but I'm not spending 2.5 hours in traffic. So of course I'm going to be more productive. It's just changing that mindset internally that, one, I trust my employees. The employees feel I'm being trusted to work on my own, and I still collaborate, but I'm going to turn in the results as well. And then, as you say, you once you prove it, it's going to be easy to expand.
Yeah, and that's a good dovetail into this next question, which is what insights can managers get from Workpulse reports? And so talking about productivity insights is just one piece of it, but that goes much further past just hours worked. So that's why with things like Radisha showed you, like labeling, productivity labeling, tracking those specific web or app usage, the time associated with certain projects and tasks, that gives you a whole picture of kind of what your employees are doing. And I think I'd like to double down also on really building that culture of self-improvement by sharing that productivity data with your employees. And exactly to John's point, making sure that you're constantly having rewards and things like that along with that data, so that if there is maybe not a super positive story, you use it as a point to jump off and try to work together to find a solution versus just pointing the finger. So it really should be a collaboration, between between HR managers and the employees. So one other question, John, that I have maybe for you, it says, what are some of the key points to consider when creating a long-term hybrid work strategy? So we talked about kind of a pilot, but what are, I guess, the kinds of things we should consistently be checking in on throughout the process?
I think it's really deciding what are your key performance indicators internally that you want to measure, either from a productivity perspective, customer service perspective, and how over time, because you're doing pulse surveys every quarter, you can see, one, are people more engaged? You can also overlay that with some results, because you have your business results that you can look at. So you can really start using that data you talked about from an analytical perspective and saying, here's a region where it's hybrid. Here's also a region where they're engaging and recognizing each other. And here's their key performance indicators from a perspective of customer service and business results. And the other thing that we measure as well is your net promoter scores. Let's face it, we really want that to be up, because we want the battle for the talent is still out there. And this whole big resignation thought process that people have been coming up with over the last 3-4 months. You know what? 3 years ago, before COVID, 45% of your population was still looking to move. It hasn't changed. So if you're not motivating and engaging your employees, especially now during this hybrid model, they're going to be spending half their day looking elsewhere. So you've really got to start doing it and prove it that it works.
Yep, absolutely. Well, those are all the questions that we had. So John, I don't know if there's anything else you want to add kind of in closing.
No, I just wanted to thank everyone that participated. I think it's a very thought-provoking discussion about hybrid. And as I say, it is here to stay. It's just the companies that are able to make it work better and engage their workforce are the ones that are going to thrive. So thanks, everybody, and let's talk again soon.
Yep. And then we'll be following up, like I said, for the trial links for everyone. So if you want to learn more about Workpulse, and we'll also include, my contact information as well as John. So thanks so much, guys, and we appreciate it. And good luck managing your teams. And yeah, you'll see in the chat right there, that's the link to sign up for a trial. And again, thanks everyone so much. You'll also be receiving, as I mentioned, the recording, and you're free to share that with anyone else that wasn't able to join today. So thank you again, and we look forward to hopefully working and hearing from you guys soon.
Thanks, everybody.
Thanks, John.
Everyone.
Take care. Bye now.
Thanks, Radisha. Bye.
Bye-bye. Thank you. Bye-bye.